Welcome back to the Driveway Beers podcast with Mike and Alex. As always, we appreciate you listening. Please rate us on all the podcast platforms. Like, subscribe, comment, share wherever else you're listening, and enjoy the show. All right, thank you for coming back to another episode. We appreciate you coming back as always. Please go to techmd.com. Adam Chubbuck with Douglas Realty. I want to thank him for sponsoring the show as always. In this real estate market, especially with the rates fluctuating by the Fed and other markets, just it's good to know that you have a professional on your side. And Adam, along with his team, will make sure and steer you in the right direction and make sure you make a good decision. In buying a home or selling a home is probably one of the biggest decisions that you'll make, just because a lot of your wealth is tied up into your home. So you don't want to make a mistake when you're buying and or selling a home. So go to tacmd.com, techmd.com, talk to Adam. Adam can even help you if you're having trouble getting approved for a loan. He's got just some really nice connections over there. Head on over to techmd.com and talk with Adam. All right, we've got an interesting topic, and Mike and I have talked about food and health. We've talked about our own weight loss issues. We've talked about how, Robert Kennedy Jr. has teamed up with Trump on his campaign, and their slogan was Make America Healthy Again versus, the Make America Great Again from Trump. I've always said, I like Bobby Kennedy. I like what he's got to say. I think he's been attacked by not only his own family, but the media. And I also want to say, the things said on the show are just thoughts and views. They're opinions. They're not to be taken for fact. I also want to say the thoughts are our own in any which way. This is not really going to be a political episode, though. It's more so focused on marketing of food and some of the things that I've learned about our food system and our food supply. Has been pretty interesting just in my deep dive into it. And so I sent a clip to Mike the other day, and we were both like, yeah, we've got to talk about this. Although I think you were probably sleeping when I sent it to you.
Yeah, because I didn't check it for a minute. So, and then we started talking about something else. Yeah, so I came back to it and said, oh, by the way, we should talk about this.
We talked about cars.
Yeah.
we literally went from this. Oh, okay. I found this. Wait, you found like a 2004 Volvo wagon.
Yeah.
And you sent that to me instead. If anyone wants to know what our conversations are like outside of this show, it's basically this show.
Via text,
mostly cars.
Yeah.
Like, God, did you see this car? Or the alien, by the way, the alien thing, I need to ask you a question.
Yeah.
So last episode, we talked about aliens, right? Halloween's coming up, aliens. Talking about how, I'm going to our neighbor's driveway to get my flyer. Well, I was gone for last weekend. And the wife sends me a picture of a flyer that was in our mailbox. Now, I would say it looks like your handiwork.
Was not.
However, your handiwork is usually much, I want to say better. you have more artistic expression. This was very plain Jane.
Yeah.
I still think someone's kind of fucking with me. However, it's not going to stop me from I wouldn't say probably going. It's November 2nd and I might go. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to our last episode, where I basically read the conference notes.
Yeah.
It looks like someone did it. Like, it looks really plain. Like, it doesn't look like the guy did it. Unless someone's had one. Ooh, maybe someone had one and they just had it and kept it.
They figured you'd want it more than they would.
I mean, was it this year's though? I mean, like November 2nd is the date. And maybe it's just, I don't know.
Well, how many people, of our neighbors and friends that listen to the show would have made one? And I have one person in particular who would have done it.
Oh, I think we're thinking about the same person. Yeah. But I also have a dark horse. Someone who, everyone knows it. So Smitty's probably the guy I think did it.
That's my number one suspect.
Ty's my dark horse.
Okay.
Because he does like the dry humor.
Yeah.
And this would be a perfect kind of like zinger.
Yeah.
But very, very dry and subtle. So he was my That was my bad. That's gonna be that's coming up. So he was my next guess. But I also don't care because I now have the flyer. Now I'm still gonna go to the driveway, and I'm gonna hang out,
camp out.
I'm gonna hang out with her neighbor, and maybe I'll get a legit one. But from what I can tell, you don't need a legit one to go.
No.
So,
yeah, it's not like a golden ticket.
Now, what is the odd chance that our neighbor, who is one of the experts, listens to this show and brought one to my mailbox?
Could be. We need to get him on the show as a guest.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
And like, the problem is though, like, I don't want him to think we're making fun of him because I'm not.
No.
I do make light of the conference itself. I will say that.
Yes, just because of the wording. All the experts.
The wording is a bit out there. But I am a believer though. So like I'm not poking fun at the concept or him. I'm poking fun at the flyer because the flyer's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Advertisements can be funny.
Yeah. The Super Bowl commercials.
Right.
They're funny.
Yeah. Effective.
Yeah.
One would
As
say.
this is.
Yes, very much so. But we were talking about food health, and we'll get into some weight loss numbers. So I do want to ask you, because I know you've been on the semaglutide for an extra couple of weeks now.
Yeah, well,
since we talked.
There's a development with that too, so we can.
Okay, we'll get into that after this. So, and I wish I could remember the lady. There's a video circulating on. Oh boy, I think it was Russell Brand who did it, but he cited another lady, and she was basically saying all of the ingredients that are in our food that aren't allowed in Europe and Canada.
Oh yeah,
and they were talking. Was it you telling me about the Fruit Loops, or was that someone else?
I think it was someone else.
Okay,
but
it might have been her.
Yeah,
it was Fruit Loops. If you look at the ingredients for Fruit Loops in Canada versus Fruit Loops in America, they are different products.
Yeah.
But that also, like, she was also talking about how the pesticide, it was like 70 billion tons of a pesticide that's sprayed on American crops that is illegal to spray in Canada and Europe.
Yeah.
But we're ingesting this shit. So I want to play this parody of a commercial. But the parody is essentially a true representation of what soda in America is. So I'm gonna put the audio on microphone, and then I may stop it here and there just to describe what they're showing in the video, or I'll just let it run. We'll see.
Water. Might I suggest an ice cold bottle of candy? We added some water and bubbles to it so you can pretend it's a drink. It's not. It's basically syrup. But my competitors and I have spent decades and billions of dollars to slowly make the general public associate our product with fun, happiness, togetherness, and in some cases, entire holidays, which thankfully happen regularly, forever. Point is, you're probably already on board with the idea of consuming wet sugar with bubbles in it. So I'm not going to spend any more money on this, nor am I going to pay a celebrity millions of dollars to tell you to drink wet sugar with bubbles in it. I don't need to. You love it.
So, essentially, it's this guy who's supposed to be like an executive for, you know, let's say Pepsi or Coke, right? They're the two big soda manufacturers. And so he's basically just telling you all the things that the soda company is doing to you. For example, like when they talk about having holidays revolve around it, he's clearly talking about Coke and the Bears, right? All right, so I'm going to keep going.
Hi, I'm some guy named Roger, and if it's hot out, or you like having friends, or some other virtually universal aspect of life, I think you should buy some Horton brand effervescent liquid candy. But more importantly, buy some for your kids. Of course, if your child goes to public school, we have huge stakes in their lunch programs, so we'll just sell it to them directly and cut you entirely out of the equation. You can even put money in a glass box and get a wide variety of flavors.
So we're about halfway through. that part right there where they have soda in schools.
Yeah. Well, and it's a really interesting thing where Coca-Cola. So there's a dude that goes on Rogan. I think his name is Bueling or Boiling. He used to be a big farm rep and he worked for some other companies, but he worked for I think Coca-Cola, and the soft drink industry, whatever the National Beverage Association is, actually gave money to the NAACP to say that removing sodas from schools and so that you couldn't buy them using any sort of public assistance money like food stamps or what is it, EBT or any of that stuff, by using that, by prohibiting it, it was racist.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how far the reach goes with these. I mean, you think about the billions of dollars they make, and they're trying to protect that market share.
Also shows how these organizations can be bought.
Yeah.
Right? All right. I'm going to keep going.
Caramel dye. If you knew how much sugar a human is supposed to consume in a day, very little, and how much sugar is in one bottle of wet sugar, lots, you probably wouldn't drink it. And we want you to drink it. So we bullied the FDA into letting us straight up not give you that information. But if you're really concerned, we can put the word diet somewhere on the can and replace the piles of natural sugar with chemicals that are...
That's even more disturbing that they got the FDA to do this.
Yeah.
And this is all verified information. So it's not like this is... Like, we've talked about the FDA when we talked about OxyContin, Purdue Pharma. We talked about that a long time ago. The FDA is not opposed to being bought off.
No.
And so...
Some would argue, and I would agree with them, that they're completely captured.
Oh, yeah. It's literally... It's the pharmaceutical industry regulating itself.
Yeah, and they use it for their R&D wing. So.
Yep. And so just because one big industry has their money foothold in the FDA doesn't mean the other industries don't either.
Right.
So let's keep going. It's almost done.
So incompatible with human biology that our bodies don't even metabolize them. That's gonna slide right through me. Luckily, we're pretty sure these chemicals don't cause any lasting damage, well, except bladder cancer in laboratory animals and other kinds of cancer in other laboratory animals. But you're a human, so f*** it. Sweet, sweet acid. Yes, acid is the right word. If I pour a bottle of cool, refreshing, sugary acid onto a car, it will literally strip away the paint. But we don't pour it on cars. We pour it in our mouths, past our teeth, into our tummies. And you'll pay more money than you should for it, even though it costs almost nothing to produce. The container, actually, is the most expensive part.
True story.
Mm-hmm.
Could you save that for me? Awful lot of water went into making that.
He basically poured
I'm Roger.
Oh, hey, by the way, what are your pronouns?
That's another episode.
Yeah. So, the funny part about that is, it's a parody commercial, right? But it's a truthful one.
Yeah.
Everything said in that is truthful. Like, they've actually shown, like, if your toilet's clogged, pour Coke down it.
Mm-hmm.
If it does strip paint off of a car.
Yeah.
And imagine you're putting this in your body.
Yeah, it'll clean corroded battery terminals.
Now, don't get me wrong. On this table right now, I've got a little mini can of Diet Coke.
Mm-hmm.
And the A, to make me feel better about it, it says diet.
Right.
Even though one of the sugar substitute in that is aspartame, which is one of the leading carcinogens and causes of cancer in this country.
Yeah, and it also triggers an insulin response.
Also, yes.
So,
and so when you and I have talked about, would you put it past a company, one of these big businesses or governments, to do something for their own purposes, to prove a point or to control a population, even if it meant it was going to kill millions of people. And when we say, no, I wouldn't put it past them at all. Of course they do this.
Oh, yeah.
People think we're nuts.
Right. Not even, of course, they do this. I firmly believe they are doing this.
Yes.
And, now there are certain things they can't get away with, like, well, I would say Boeing, but they had a rough spell there lately. But, at some point, like, they have to realize, well, how much we're going to get sued by and how much money we're going to make. So, yeah, there might be some huge. Look at the tobacco companies, for instance. They're still around.
Yep.
They got the pantsuit off of them. They're still there, and they didn't care how many of their customers they were killing because they knew they were going to have more customers come in, and if they did get sued, they'd make enough money to cover that loss. So I don't put it past any of them. Now, some businesses, like, if an airline kept having their airplanes crash all the time, eventually people would just stop flying that airline.
Some things are bad for business.
Yeah. But other things, it's like, they're just, it's almost like, so there are people that promote illegal parties, or a bar that lets, a college bar that lets underage kids in. Like, they know they're going to get fined, they're going to get caught and get fined. So they just build that into their prices. Mm-hmm. So if they do get caught and fined, well, they already paid the fine. They're good. And if for every day they don't get caught and don't have to pay a fine, that's just more money for them.
Yeah. I don't put it past some of these people to do any of these things anymore. Mm-mm. Now, there was one thing that was interesting in that parody ad when he talked about how it causes cancer in some lab rats. Well, you're not a lab rat, right?
Right.
But the other part of that is who owns the peer-reviewed journals. Mm-hmm. And I don't know the exact owners of it, but I know it's not. I believe it's the American, not the ADA. That's the American Dental Association, but like the American School of Pediatrics and
APA,
and then you've got the other one that's just for the regular doctors. Mm-hmm. Then you've got like the Lancet and the New England Journal of Medicine. They're all owned by publishing companies.
Yeah,
which are owned by the industries.
Mm-hmm.
So there are peer-reviewed. There are studies that don't get peer-reviewed because they won't end up in those journals because people with a lot of money don't want some studies being put in there.
Yes.
And it's done by design. So that way when people say, well, here's the link to this study. Well, it's not peer-reviewed. It's not in the New England Journal of Medicine. It's not in the Lancet. It's not here. It's in none of these renowned publications. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, what people don't understand is that those publications have been compromised for years.
Yeah.
We're talking over 20, 30 years. Mm-hmm. They've been owned and bought for, and the only studies that go in there are what the major corporations want in there.
Yeah.
And so imagine if you're a doctor, you're just a regular physician, and the American or the Academy of what's the one with the doctors? It's not the Academy of Pediatrics, it's whatever the regular doctors are. Whatever's equivalent to like the American Dental Association.
Yeah.
Well, the people that head that up are executives. And they can get paid off just like everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
And these companies have no shortage of cash.
No.
It's just like the people at the FDA get paid off.
And it's also how they fund the research, too.
Right.
So if you want to do a big, say you're doing a big double-blind study or whatever, to get a big enough sample size to make it legitimate, or if you're testing things on human subjects or it's complex tests on animals or whatever, you need to pay for it. And who pays for it? So if you're doing a study on the effects of soft drinks as it relates to childhood diabetes, and the big funder of the research is the American Beverage Association, how do you think that study's going to go? Right. They're not paying for you to slam them.
Right. And why do you think they have, why do you think Coke has Diet Coke?
Yeah.
Sugar got a bad name, mm-hmm. right? So here's the interesting part. Coke in Mexico Regular Coke in Mexico is made with cane sugar.
Yeah, so same thing in Europe.
Regular Coke in America is made with high fructose corn syrup, which is chemicals.
Yeah.
There was an actual study that I read that said high fructose corn syrup has no different effect on the body than regular cane sugar, which is complete bullshit.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong, both have the same insulin response in the body. Yes, they do. But the other effects of high fructose corn syrup on the body are far worse than regular cane sugar. Never mind aspartame, and I don't know about there has been no long-term study on like stevia, Zuvia, whatever the uvias are, the alcohol, whatever the alcohol sugars now are.
I know what the effect on this body is. It goes.
That's the thing though. They were like, oh, it's keto friendly because alcohol sugars don't count as sugars.
Yeah.
So they don't count against the fiber in a product. So I can put in a corn chip if I want to. I can put a whole bunch of fiber in there, added of course, not natural. I can put alcohol sugars in there, and I can say it's keto friendly.
Yeah.
Well, keto is the key word because everyone's going keto.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants the sugars.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime they say low carb or no sugar, and the thing is, like fructose is a naturally occurring sugar. It's in fruits and all this stuff. The thing is, like, say, oh well, it's natural. It occurs in fruits. Like what's the difference? The difference is the concentration. Like, you could eat, how many apples would you have to eat to get the equivalent amount of sugar from an apple, that's in soda? So, also, soda has absolutely no nutritional benefit whatsoever. There's nothing in it that's going to help you. There's no nutrients in there. If you look at all the different nutrients on the label there, are there any of them that have any sort of percentage for being good for you?
So this is
sodium is one.
This is on a can of Diet Coke. The only thing it lists is 25 milligrams of sodium.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is not good for you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Carbonated water, which they said. Caramel color, which they mentioned. Aspartame, cancer-causing. Phosphoric acid. Potassium benzoate. Benzoate? That's to protect the taste.
Yeah.
Because apparently that needed protecting in this ass-tasting thing. But it also says natural flavors. What the fuck does that mean?
I guess oil is a natural flavor because it's naturally occurring, right?
I don't think you should not be able to put that on a can.
Yeah.
If it's a natural flavor, you should be able to tell me what it's from. Like, what is it naturally flavored with?
Yeah.
Citric acid, another acid. And of course, apparently caffeine gets added. So it's not like coffee where caffeine's natural.
Yeah.
It has to be added. Let's see. Other than that, it doesn't say anything. Oh, this is interesting. If I can pronounce it, this is going to be really cool. It just says Jesus.
You want me to read it since I don't need glasses?
I got the glasses off.
Oh,
I should be able to read this. This is a big word, though. You know me. Me and English don't really go well. I don't have all the good words. It says contains phenylalanine. What the? I don't even know what that is. Phenylalanine.
Phenylalanine.
You read it.
Let me see.
It's the one you got to turn sideways to read.
Oh boy.
Yeah, told you, big words. And it's not exactly clear on the can either.
No, of course not.
It's like blurred. Like it wasn't bad enough. Let's blur it too.
Yeah.
Who's gonna read it?
It's on there like a warning label.
It says phenylalanines contains.
I think it's phenylalanine. Yeah. Contains methylene dioxymethamphetamine. It's MDMA, in case you wanted to know.
I'm just typing in phenylalanine. phenylalanine in soda. Oh, comes up in the search. It's an amino acid found in many protein-rich foods, including eggs, milk, and meat. Also added to some sweeteners like aspartame, which is used in many diet sodas.
Well, if it comes from eggs, they're natural. That's protein, so it's good.
Well, I love it. So I would love to know what the sources of this are. It's not a health concern for most people, but it can be dangerous for people with phenylketonuria, PKU, a rare genetic. This sounds like a fucking pharmaceutical ad at this point. It doesn't say it doesn't source it. I mean, this is so apparently it's attached to aspartame, which causes cancer. Even though like the Mayo Clinic won't say that. Like I'm looking, so part of this is from the Mayo Clinic.
Who are they bought and paid for by?
It's like you can't trust anybody. This one from rochester.edu. Phenylalanine is an essential amino acid found in high-protein foods. It may improve memory and learning ability. It may enhance mood and alertness. Oh, we need it. Who knew? I mean, maybe it's the good part of the aspartame.
See, I wish they would so when they talk about like, you know, alertness and all that, like, you know, and you have Diet Coke and it's diet, so it's good for you. I almost remember this soda called Jolt.
And
Jolt
and Surge.
Yeah.
It was
and then you've got like
Hyper Coke and Mountain Dew.
Yeah. And then you've got like all these energy drinks, and then you've got Bang. Like, I want to be like really, it's not even pretending to be good for you. It's like, yeah, this is going to kill you, but it's going to keep you awake until you can drive home. Like, that's the, you know, I'd rather just be honest.
So here's one. Why is excess phenylalanine bad? As a result, this amino acid can build up to toxic levels in the blood and other tissues because nerve cells in the brain are particularly sensitive to phenylalanine levels. Excessive amounts of this substance can cause brain damage.
Oh.
But it's perfectly fine. We need it. We need it, though.
Right.
The Mayo Clinic said so. I'm sure it occurs in the body, or it's in the body at low levels, and we may need it, but probably not at the level that's in that can of Diet Coke.
Right. That's probably enough to last you forever.
Probably.
But it's kind of like the whole, you know, the thing with seed oils. And, you know, there are a lot of these seed oils that are, it's interesting. You can look and see when the obesity and diabetes rates started to increase in the U.S. population, kind of coincided with the introduction of seed oils and the sugary drinks, all this stuff that started coming out. But like, one of the ingredients is sunflower seed oil. Like, oh, sunflower seed oil. Sunflower seeds are good for you, right? Well, yeah, because you can eat a sunflower seed. There's other things, but you're not getting this huge concentration of this one particular part of the sunflower seed. You know, same with all these other oils.
You have to do like the whole family-sized bag of seeds times 3.
You couldn't eat it.
Crush all the seeds down
into
the oil and then shove it in your body.
Because you run through an expeller and presses to get all this stuff out of it. So you're getting such a huge concentration of it that you wouldn't get just by eating sunflower seeds. Like you'd probably shred your mouth to pieces if you were eating all those sunflower seeds.
This is wild. It gets worse. Phenylalanine supplementation aggravated alcohol-induced liver injury and intestinal barrier dysfunction. So that's good.
Neither of which sound pleasant.
For me, no. Anything to do with the intestinal barrier needs to be left the fuck alone because I have enough issues with that. I mean, it's wild, though. Like, and that was just one of them. I mean, never mind the 2 things we don't know.
Yeah. So there's, so we were talking about this. I looked up some of the chemicals that are banned in Europe and in the U.S. So some of it, like brominated vegetable oil, you can't, it's used in citrus flavored drinks in the United States, banned in the EU and Japan due to potential links to hypothyroidism. Potassium bromate, It's a bread additive that is considered a potential carcinogen, and it's banned in many countries, including China, Brazil. And the CCP said it's bad for you, right? Let's see, recombinant bovine growth hormone to increase milk, BHA and BHT, preservatives linked to cancer, and then the artificial food dyes. And that's where the Fruit Loops thing comes in. Like we use here, they use yellow 5 and red 6 or whatever the numbers are, but or red 40. But in Europe, they use like watermelon dye, like a dye that's made out of watermelon. Mm-hmm. There's no difference in the taste. But here, because it's cheaper to use these chemicals rather than these other dyes, that's why they use them. Mm-hmm. And if you come out against them, they destroy you. You ever hear of a there's a woman called the Food Babe?
Yes.
So they went at like a complete smear campaign on her. Just like they're doing with like they did with RFK Jr. Mm-hmm. A complete smear campaign. So
his whole family did that.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah, and these entities are so like they're trying to protect their nuts, so they're going to go after whoever threatens them. And another thing I think is weird about this whole thing is, so when RFK endorsed Trump, kind of started this thing. They called it MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. Yep. And all of a sudden, everyone on the left is saying how awful that is. And it's like, what?
Meanwhile, Michelle Obama's main, because one of RFK's main things is to get healthy lunches in schools.
Yeah.
Well, Michelle Obama had the same initiative.
That was like her Nancy Reagan just say no to drugs thing.
Yes. And now it's shit because it came from him.
Yeah.
And because he decided to endorse Trump.
Yeah.
But when she did it, it was fantastic. And why would you be opposed to that?
Yeah.
Like, we live in fucking bizarro world.
It's so strange. And the thing about it is, like, you used to think that, you have like the granola the granola hippies, right? And if you look at some granola hippie, you think, oh well, that's going to be a liberal. That person probably closer to Bernie Sanders than they are to Donald Trump. But now it's like the left is completely gone, and being healthy is they've attached all their labels to it. People who are in shape that's too much whiteness. And, if you take care of your body, watch what you eat, that's somehow, fat shaming and all this nonsense that they've come up with, that it doesn't make any sense. And how it became so politicized, if you're a dude and you've got some muscle to you, like, oh, that's toxic masculinity. Like, no, you're just trying to be in shape. Where they prefer some noodle-armed, like the dude that tried to kill Trump. Like, that guy is like that's their picture of what a man should be.
That's Dave Grohl's hero right there.
Yeah.
So I just did a quick search, and it was on Google, and I typed in pesticide in U.S. but banned in other countries. And so, first one is called paraquat. Mm-hmm. It's a toxic weed killer that is banned in 32 countries, including the EU and China. A 2009 UCLA study found that exposure to paraquat can increase the risk of developing Parkinson's disease. 4-8, an extremely hazardous pesticide that is banned in many countries, including the EU, China, Brazil, India, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, and Turkey. Symptoms of exposure to 4-8 include dizziness, blurred vision, diarrhea, low blood pressure, seizures, dyspnea, don't even know what that is, and abdominal pain. 1,3-D, whatever the fuck that is, a volatile and toxic gas that is injected into the ground to sterilize soil before planting. The EU began phasing it out in 2007 due to the risk to humans and animals. Chloropyrifos, an endocrine disruptor and breast carcinogen that is banned in the EU, California, New York, and Hawaii. It's commonly found on produce and in home pest control formulas. And there's more. Like, all these other countries decided, hey, we don't want to kill people. Mm-hmm. So rather than using things that aren't that harmful, that could maybe do the same thing, we're just going to use these things. Wonder why? Because they're cheap as shit.
Yeah, and a lot of them that are banned, like the ones banned in China, are made in China and shipped and sold here.
It's not just China. So China and Germany are the two countries that ship this shit to us.
It's not even legal there.
No, it's not legal, but they produce it there and they send it to us and we spray it all over our fucking food system.
Yeah.
Just so we don't get some weed and some kill it and some dead crops. Mm-hmm. Which, oh, by the way, the government pays farmers not to farm their land.
Yeah.
You know, if we're really worried about dead crops, maybe we should overproduce the food naturally. And if some of it gets killed off by by disease, then hey, it'll be all right because we got some spare.
Yeah.
But no. No, we don't. We'll pay you per acre to not farm it.
Right.
And that shit's been going on for almost a century. Mm-hmm. Which is what, by the way, a century now is what, 1924?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Well, my oldest son told me that I was born in the 1900s. Yeah. So I was like, thanks, dude.
I mean, technically, well, with the backward math, so apparently 1900s is really 1800s. And so we were technically born in the year of 2000 because we were born in the
20th century?
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess otherwise we were born in the 1900s because we were born in 1979.
Yeah.
Well, you were 1980.
No, I'm 79.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you're still okay in my book.
Yeah.
Those 80 kids, fuck them.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is funny. I'm going to go on a podcast soon talking about parents, Gen X parents, and how they raise their kids and how it's different from the past. It's like, well, my mother basically slapped me across the head a lot, and I can't do that to my kids. So, you know, there's that. I think I'm going on later in November, but I'll post more information when I go on. I keep getting the spam shit in fucking Telegram of all places. It's like the Chinese bots. They're the ones that are from like the ones that they migrated from Twitter to Telegram now.
Oh, okay.
Like half of all of our followers on Twitter, which by the way, we have over 400 now.
Really?
Yeah, I was shocked to see the number. Now, that being said, more than half of them
are Chinese bots.
Yes, that with OnlyFans pages. Yes. So I mean, they're following us because they want us to follow them back. So we'll click on the link to their videos.
Yeah.
Which I don't do.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I get a lot of. Well, I'm not on Twitter that much, but I get some of those coming through, and I just ignore them. But
you should. I don't know why you don't go on under our account.
I should.
Yeah. Then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know the crap I say on there?
Yeah.
My God. It's literally the ultimate. Like, I don't have my name out there.
Yeah.
You're a whore. You suck dick for coke. So yeah, the thing with the health and the food, it's like whenever you talk to these big industry people, like, oh well, you know, we could never produce enough food for the people in America.
Oh, it's such bullshit. We throw enough food away in this country to feed the world 10 times over.
I was watching this one video on YouTube, and this lady basically, she's a serial entrepreneur. She goes and she creates businesses, and she just does things pretty interestingly. And one of the things she did was she went and she got a farm loan and bought a parcel of land. I think it was about 6 acres or so in upstate New York. Mm-hmm. And she got a farm loan, and she had to put, I think, 20% down or something, but she said you can do it through USDA for 0% down. And most of them don't even ask how you're going to farm the land. And she's like, but then she was like, and basically in order to subsistence farm for yourself, you could do it with less than 1 acre of land to live on and farm maybe a quarter of it.
Yeah.
She's like, you can grow enough food for you and your family, or. And she's like, and what she does is she's got a farm stand, So like she grew pumpkins, she put pumpkins out there, people bought the pumpkins.
Yeah.
And she used whatever extra money she had to buy the stuff she couldn't grow herself. So basically it was like the barter system almost.
Yeah, well that's probably how, well, I know my grandmother used to tell me stories about how, like, if they wanted chickens, they would, walk down, and they lived in New York, but like the southern part of New York near the Pennsylvania border, not the city.
I got you.
I guess Corning was close to where they were. But like, she would, if they wanted chicken, they'd run down to knock on Mr. Jones's door to see if he had any chickens, and they would trade him, milk for the chickens. And they would bring she'd carry the chickens back. There was no refrigeration. So, because this is like Depression era, so she'd carry the chickens back. And, if this was a Friday and they were going to have chicken for Sunday dinner, the chickens would be pecking around like, oh, go kill the chickens, and that's how they did it. But yeah, you would go and whatever you couldn't grow, you just trade for somebody else who could. Who did have it.
So one of the best ways to produce food for yourself, and if you ever talk to chicken advocates, not necessarily to eat the chickens, but to get eggs from chickens.
Yeah.
You essentially get 1 to 2 eggs per day per chicken. So if you had 10 chickens, you'd at least get 10 eggs per day.
Yeah.
And they're very low maintenance, easy to feed.
Oh yeah, and if you just let them free range, like they'll eat bugs and they just peck around. So like when Purdue would say like, we feed our chickens an all veggie diet, like what? That's not what chickens eat, dude.
Which means they give them cornmeal.
Yeah.
Which has pesticides on it. And they put them in those, they don't free range. There was an old documentary, I think Vice did it, back when Vice actually did real news. Which, by the way, that dude, what was it, Shane? He
was just on Rogan.
Yes, yeah. I was going to say that. And he basically said how the corporation took it over and turned Vice into shit. But when they actually did good reporting back when they were part of HBO, they went into those chicken farms, basically. And it's basically this big, long, dark, no sunlight, and just packed to the walls with chickens.
Yeah.
They essentially pull them out with a bulldozer. It's like the bucket on the front.
Yeah.
The bucket loader. That's how they get them.
Yeah. I know they cut their beaks off so they can't peck each other.
Pretty much, yeah. And so like they load them up with antibiotics so they don't
because they live in such unsanitary conditions that they would all die if they were.
None of them can walk.
Yeah. And
they just scoop them up with the front loader, and they start all over again.
Yeah,
it's what like the wife and I we watched watched like a documentary on this stuff. It was just like we were grossed out by it. But then we went to Whole Foods and found out how much organic chicken costs. Like, fuck it, guess we're eating some chemicals.
Yeah,
like it was double the cost. Like I think like 4 to 6 like chicken thighs right now. I think it's like $3 or $4. Chicken thighs are cheap.
Yeah.
Well, if you get the organic ones, it's like $7.
Yeah.
It's double the cost.
Yeah, and then that organic label is iffy anyway.
Well, that's another USDA bought and paid for bullshit.
Yeah.
Like in order to be considered an organic farm, it's literally you get certified and they never go back to check it. So you could get certified as a organic farm by the USDA. So all your meat, all your chicken, all your produce, you'll get labeled. You can put that organic label on your food legally, and they haven't been back in 10 years to check. Right. It's all a scam. It's like, now look, I'm not saying like I'm fat because of the food, but it sure as fuck didn't help.
Right.
You know, and it's something like when I was a kid, back when we were kids in the 80s and 90s, it was okay to advertise. I mean, shit, they were doing cigarette commercials towards kids. It was called the Winston Cup for NASCAR, for crying out loud. So you could buy Winston cigarettes or RJR Nabisco or RJR Reynolds. I mean, think about it. If there was RJR Nabisco and RJR was also the tobacco company.
Yeah.
The people making your cereal were making your cigarettes. You know, and then they had the healthy cigarettes and they put the American Indian label on it.
Yeah.
They had the chief on the front.
Was it American Spirit?
Yes. American Spirit was the name of it, and it was supposed to be only tobacco.
Yeah.
Well, here's a hint. Tobacco has nicotine in it. Naturally. So naturally you're going to become addicted to it. They just happen to leave out the tar, the fiberglass, and the fillers.
And all the chemicals and all the other crap they put in there. That the organic label, it's all crap. Like you walk into a Whole Foods, which I don't go to Whole Foods.
Neither do we.
But and Amazon bought it out. But it's still supposedly everything in there is organic and natural. You're like these are oatmeal cream pies. Like, tell me how these are organic oatmeal cream. It's the same shit.
It didn't make me feel any better by eating them.
Yeah, I still. No, I didn't buy them. I went to the regular grocery store and bought them there because they were cheaper.
Look, there's only one oatmeal cream pie.
Yeah,
it's Little Debbie. Mm-hmm. Any other brand No, I had one the other day. By the way, I don't know where I found it. I think I found it like Wawa. Mm-hmm. I was like, "Ooh, oatmeal cream pie." I picked it up. Nasty.
Because it wasn't Little Debbie.
It wasn't Little Debbie.
It was probably Lance.
I probably, at that point in time, give me my chemicals.
Yeah.
I want the appropriate Little Debbie oatmeal cream pie.
Yeah, and the ingredients for an oatmeal cream pie are essentially hydrogenated oils, high fructose corn syrup, and flour. They can make anything out of it.
Here's the controversial part. I don't have any problem with them making food like this. But label it as such that I know this shit's bad for me. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Everyone should know an oatmeal cream pie isn't good for you. But I should at least be notified if it's poison.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's levels to this shit. Mm-hmm. It's not like I had a homemade cherry pie, which is not great for me.
Right.
It's, oh, by the way, here are these pesticides and chemicals that are going to go in your body as well. So that's probably a little bit worse for you.
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
Less calories, though.
Yeah.
But the homemade pie, every ingredient is known. Mm-hmm. Flour, eggs, milk.
Yeah.
To make the dough. Or flour, eggs, water to make dough.
Yeah.
It's thinned out. Probably some there's sugar in there too.
Yeah.
But regular cane sugar. Mm-hmm. Although that's probably, Domino sugar is probably processed as well. I'm sure you can get unprocessed sugar to put in there though. So let's say it's that kind. The cherry mix, which probably came from a can, which probably had additional shit put in there.
Oh, who knows what's in there, yeah.
Rather than, but let's say the person that made it, actually, they got the cherries, they de-pitted them, squished them up, put the sugar in there, mixed it all. Again, the good sugar, not the bad sugar. Mm-hmm. Put it in there, made a completely untainted cherry pie.
Yeah.
Still not good for me.
Right.
But at least I know what the fuck's in it. It's not going to kill me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not all full of chemicals and poison and God knows what else.
Almost did my Lewis Black impression.
But I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he's real into fitness and all this. But I said, you know what? I wonder if we went back to our natural, not quite natural state, but to the point where you had to actually physically do things to survive, and maybe find your own food, whether it was hunt fish, grow it, however you had to do it, farming it without the benefit of machines and all this stuff, if we would, but still have some of the benefits, especially diagnostic and preventative stuff of modern medicine, if we'd be better off. And, we BS about it for a while. We kind of came to the conclusion that, yes, we probably would be. Probably be better just, if you look back in time, people died from, if they got injured, it was from infection. It wasn't necessarily from diabetes. Like, someone would get hurt, they died from infection. It wasn't they were dying from some condition that was caused by additives in food or chemicals or plastic that's in everything now. So they're finding plastic in people's brains and their nuts.
Well, that was another thing this lady was talking about. I got to find that video. She was talking about the microplastics and shit in everything. Like, it led to at least the lower levels of testosterone in men. Like, I gotta find the video. Like, it's wild what she's saying. But we can't even get basics right in this country. Like bread. Mm-hmm. We've talked about the bread before. I just pulled it up. One of the most prominent additives found in U.S. bread that is banned in many other countries is potassium bromate. Mm-hmm. It's used to strengthen dough, but is considered a suspected carcinogen and is banned in Europe, China, India, and many and among other places. They can't even not poison us with the fucking bread.
Yeah.
Like, what hope does this country have even with someone at the highest levels of government, to get all of this shit out of our food in 4 years. Mm-hmm. Is there any hope? I don't think so.
Well, I think the regulatory agencies are completely captured. So you have to root out all the corruption that's in there. And because all that money is putting the people in office who make the rules, and those people are appointing the people who run the agencies, they all know where their bread's buttered, if you forgive the pun. But,
well played.
Yeah. But there's no incentive to. And if you try to kick it all out, they just call you a racist and a Nazi. So, I don't see any realistic chance of getting it out.
This show's going out on Election Day, by the way.
Well, we'll probably get labeled as misinformation.
Well, of course.
Now, what's the other one? There's malinformation, misinformation, and disinformation.
We're probably one of those.
And one of them is, it's factual statements. It's just not convenient for the people in power.
That's malinformation.
Yeah. We just don't like, so we're going to label it malinformation.
Well, apparently, so that Rogan interview with Trump, so I want to say for like the first 6 to 7 hours that it was out on YouTube, you could type in Joe Rogan Trump interview or Joe Rogan Trump, and it wouldn't show up in the search results.
Wow.
Unless you went to his page to find it, it wouldn't show up in search results. Now, keep in mind, this was a video when in the first 12 hours, it had 50 million views. Just on YouTube. No, I'm not even talking Spotify.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not talking about wherever else it was on Twitter. So what he did in response, he put it on Twitter. So video on Twitter is starting to become something. But it's still not there yet. But like Tucker Carlson does his show there.
Yep.
But so Rogan said, screw him. I'm going to... Because he's still getting paid by Spotify.
Yeah.
But he's now allowed to put his show wherever he wants. He doesn't have to just do it exclusively through Spotify.
Yeah.
And he earns a shit ton of money through YouTube. But think about it. You got 50 million views without it showing up in search.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the funny part is, normally with YouTube, if a video gets 50 million views in that short amount of time, it goes into the suggested. It's the first video in the suggested line.
Except this one.
Yeah. Because they don't want you to see it.
Yeah. So I listened to it on Spotify. And Rogan actually invited Kamala Harris.
He did.
And she wouldn't do it.
Well, there's a twist to it. So after Trump went on and found out that J.D. Vance was going to go on, which I believe he did. I believe today's the 30th. I think he went on today or tomorrow. I can't remember which one's going on. She said, okay, we'll do it, but you have to come to me. Joe Rogan is the largest podcast in the world.
Yeah, you don't make demands on...
Correct. And everyone's like, well, she's the vice president. Like, she's campaigning just like he is. Like, they're both traveling.
Yeah.
He said, cancel my other interviews. This is the one I need to go on. Because it's 50 million fucking views.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I think the views are always pumped up and all this other shit. But let's say it's half.
Yeah.
And then, again, 50 million was just on YouTube in the first 12 hours. Who knows how many views it's going to get. But between Twitter, Spotify, and YouTube, let's say it gets 50 million combined. Well, think about it. There were only 150 million votes in the last election.
Yeah.
And I say only because that was the most votes in any election. That's still 1/3 of the electorate.
Oh, yeah.
1/3. You're telling me that you're telling me Call Her Daddy was a more important interview for you to go to, or The Breakfast Club, which you've been on a couple times in New York City. You're willing to travel to New York City, but you can't go to Austin.
Yeah.
To get in front of 1/3 of the electorate. She went to Club Shay Shay. She went to go see Shannon Sharp. Or maybe they went to her. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thing is, though, Club Shay Shay, outside of the Cat Williams show that he did, which pretty much just blew up in a whole industry, he gets maybe 200,000 views.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll give him 500,000 views. Breakfast Club, a radio show in the morning, which is pretty localized.
Yeah.
I'll give it 200,000 listens. Maybe I'll give that one 500.
Mm-hmm.
You went on both. Let's say you get 1 million.
Yeah.
Again, 50 million views.
Yep.
That once you go there, you don't have to go anywhere else.
No.
You've reached everyone.
Yeah.
But they don't want her to go on a 3-hour unscripted talking show where they just talk.
Yeah.
He even said when Trump was there, he didn't take the bait, by the way, from Trump. Trump was calling her whatever. Mm-hmm. He's like, I don't care. He goes, I just want to talk to her. I want to find out who she is.
Yeah.
He goes, they can tell me not to talk about whatever they want. I won't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to talk to her.
Yeah.
I need to find out who she is as a person. You don't want that. She didn't want that. Her campaign doesn't want that.
No.
I mean, and then, of course, Trump goes to Madison Square Garden. And, of course, Tony Hinchcliffe, for people that don't know, he's got a show called Kill Tony. They tried canceling his ass a couple times because of shit he says. Some people find him funny. I'm not a big fan of him. I don't find him that funny. Mm-hmm. Other people find him really funny. But he made the comment about Puerto Rico being like a floating garbage dump.
Yeah. When
essentially it was a joke that made light of the landfills there that are overflowing. That's a real issue going on over there. That was what the joke was poking fun of. Not the people of Puerto Rico, but of course all the talking points today were, Trump called all the people of Puerto Rico garbage.
Yeah.
And then of course, and it wasn't Trump that said it. It was Tony. Mm-hmm. Well, then our dear president decides to go and do a Zoom call for our sitting vice president and says, well, the only people that are garbage are the people that support him.
Yeah.
Broseph, you just demonized 75 million people.
Yeah.
Like, who's running that campaign? Like, Dumb and Dumber? Like, it's like Lloyd Christmas is the campaign manager.
Yeah.
Like, you guys got to stop. Like, it's like whoever ran Hillary's campaign in 2016 is running this campaign and just sinking that Titanic.
Yep.
It's like, but we'll talk about the election in 2 weeks. We're not going to talk about it next week. Well, we like to let things simmer.
Yeah.
We don't strike while the iron's hot because we're not that kind of a show. We like to be behind the times. we're not the strike first
right
type show. And we didn't want to get too bugged into it anyway. But the last part of the show, because we only got a couple minutes left before we cut it, and we alluded to it in the beginning of the show, was the semaglutide they were taking. So what ended up happening with it?
So it got too expensive.
Really?
Yeah. So as the dose increases, the cost increases. So I said, I'm not spending, $400 a month on this stuff. So I didn't renew it. Now,
did it work though?
No.
So how many months did you do it?
2.
And did you lose any weight?
No. So, but here's the thing. I was on such a low dose because they say start low. What I did though is through the little messaging app, patient portal thing, I sent a message to my doctor. I said, hey, because she initially put it in as pre-diabetic because of the A1C. It was, of course, the evil empire of the insurance company denied it because when we talked about this before, rather than changing the oil, let's wait for the engine to blow up, and then we'll pay to replace the engine, but we won't pay for oil change. Mm-hmm. So, but I was reading on there that you can, if you have a BMI over, I forget what the number is, mine's there, and another condition, that it'll be covered. So. Well, I have high blood pressure, and that was one of the conditions. So I said, hey, let's try it this way. So I got no response. So finally I said, what's going on? So I sent another message saying, hey, just wondered if you had a chance to look at this. And they said because they didn't reach back out, they never told me that they did it, that the prior authorization expired, they have to put it through again. Well, then once that went through, I got a text message from my pharmacy, hey, your medication's out of stock. We're not sure when it's going to come into stock. So I guess it got approved, because normally my pharmacy will call me and say, hey, the copay on this is like $1,600. And I was like, no, thank you. Mm-hmm. So I'm waiting to see. And I'm not against it at all. I was listening to another podcast it's the one I listened to is called I'm going to give them a free plug here because we have so many listeners to plug it.
We're moving the needle.
Yeah. Good dudes. It's the Mark Bell Power Project. It's pretty much about weightlifting and things like that. So they had a doctor on there that was talking about the GLP-1s and the semaglutides, all these different medications. And, she prescribes to people for weight loss, and she actually got on the naughty list for talking about compounders, because Big Pharma doesn't like you talking about compounders.
That's where I got mine from.
Yeah. So she said she writes them with no problem, but the patients have to hold up their end of the deal. So it's like, quit drinking, quit eating garbage. You have to do the things. So now I'm saying, well, I'm going to do the things. So I decided that, and we talked about this on a previous episode about alcohol and stuff like that. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to knock out the booze and the beer just because it's a whole bunch of calories I don't need to be ingesting. Mm-hmm. So I got back, lifting regularly. So I haven't really weighed myself at all because I kind of don't want to see the number. And that's just to me, it's just one metric of many.
It is the one metric though, right?
Well, see, this is where you and I differ. Mm-hmm. I'm looking more at body composition than I am. If I weighed 400 pounds, I was 11% body fat, I'd be playing for the Ravens. So
True.
I'd be cool with that. The scale to me is because you have there are people out there who are skinny fat and they have no muscle. They're unable to do anything. I still like to run around and play with the kids and throw baseballs hard and things like that. And at the current condition, it makes it difficult. So
if you're worried about body composition, they have body composition scales. Mm-hmm. And that's the one that I did.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that's a really good thing to do regardless. Because one, it's going to tell you, it'll tell you how much weight on you is muscle, organs, and bones.
Yeah.
And so what that did for me was, so first of all, I had 199 pounds of organs, bones, muscle. Mm-hmm. Now, initially, when we went into this, we thought we used the regular chart, and it was 170 pounds. I'm 5'9". 170 pounds was where I should be.
Yeah. Well,
if you're 198 pounds of muscle, bones, and organs, 170 pounds is not doable.
Yeah, you have to lose 22 pounds of muscle.
Right. I'd have to. Yeah, exactly. Or my organs have got to shrink or something.
Right.
Right. You're not going to lose 22 pounds of fat, bones, and of bones, muscle, and organs. Because likely, if you're getting smaller, you're getting more active. Therefore, your muscles should be either getting bigger or at least staying the same. Like even just going for walks, my leg muscles aren't going to atrophy.
Right.
It's impossible for that. Although I will say, if you get smaller, your muscles don't have to carry as much weight.
Exactly.
There could be some atrophy, but 22 pounds of it?
Well, and what this doctor said that was on the Power Project was that without doing the things, you can increase the dose to the point where these medications are very effective at weight loss. But what happens is you just become a smaller version of what you are now. Mm-hmm. So if you were 30% body fat, it's going to come down a little bit, but you're still going to be fat. If you were weak before, you're still going to be weak. So that's where I like to stay on the weights and do this because I enjoy. First of all, I like doing it. Mm-hmm. So,
well, here's another reason why the body composition scale was important. So again, if the doctor goes by the scale and says I should be 175 pounds, that's also 0% body fat.
Yeah,
that's not.
But you can't.
It's not happening.
Well, you need fat. Like there's fat, visceral fat that's around your organs that supports and insulates and all that stuff.
But that's just not fucking happening.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm being real with myself here. So let's say I get down to 20% body fat, which is not horrible.
No,
right? That still puts me at 250.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, 240. Because if I'm 200, let's say I'm 200 pounds of shit I'm supposed to have. 20% of that is another 40 pounds. Mm-hmm. So 20% body fat, which isn't horrible, puts me at 240. Okay. Well, as of a couple of days ago, I'm 315. Mm-hmm. So yes, I do have a chunk of weight I need to lose. Technically be 65 pounds to get down to 250.
Yeah.
But without knowing that on the body composition, without knowing the body composition scale and what it was telling me, I'd be thinking I got to get all the way down to 170.
Yeah. Yeah, look at this.
That's a huge difference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and some of these things, we talked about where these charts came from and how they're kind of just made up and bullshit. It comes from shit devised by insurance companies in the military in the 1950s. Like that's where this crap comes from. Mm-hmm. Where people were a little bit smaller and stuff back in those times. So it's to go by some stupid chart, some height weight chart that some guy invented, mm-hmm. Some guy wearing, with like a pocket protector and like thick black plastic rimmed glasses and a freaking buzz cut just because, let's make it that.
Well, and they still use it.
Yeah.
It's shocking to me. Like,
yeah.
This is like, hey, scientists, can't we science the shit out of this a little bit, please? I mean, I've lost all my faith in the science community after COVID.
When you go by those charts, like, if you just go by the height weight chart, which is what a lot of doctors still do, mm-hmm. Like Derrick Henry's morbidly obese.
Yep.
Alex Ovechkin's morbidly obese. Like these elite, freaking top of their game athletes are, need to lose 100 pounds.
And for those who don't know, Derrick Henry shredded like a beast.
Oh, yeah.
But he's 6'3".
Yeah.
His actual weight, I'm going to say, is 270.
Yeah. What is published?
240.
It's bullshit.
It's complete bullshit. He was 240 when he came out of college.
Yeah.
My man is rock. I mean, look, I'm going to say minimum 260.
Yeah.
You're right. He's considered obese.
Yeah.
With nary an ounce of fat on him. Mm-mm. Like he's about as close to 0% body fat as you can get.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and he runs 22 miles an hour. And was pissed off that he didn't score. He was pissed off a guy caught him.
Yeah.
Who had to run all the way across the field at an angle to catch him. He's like, man, I can't believe I didn't score that touchdown. Bro, you run 22 miles an hour. I don't drive that fast sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't drive that fast in my neighborhood.
You get the freaking highway patrol in the neighborhood yelling at you for going that fast. You're speeding. I was going 20.
Could you imagine a dude can run faster than I drive my car?
Yeah.
Like, that's unfathomable to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just to kind of talk about the Ravens for a second. So, I go on Twitter, and of course, Ravens fan base is just fucking awful. And they're all like, well, or even like if you go on like TV and watch the sports shows, oh, Lamar's got to win a championship, and like every Sunday I get to watch the Ravens. Some days when I don't have kids sports, the days I get to sit and watch the games or even the highlights. Between Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, I know I'm going to see something I have never seen before. Mm-hmm. I have never seen in Baltimore. I've never seen a 275-pound man run like a deer.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a quarterback, like the other week, a 220-pound quarterback scrambling, decided to stiff arm a 275-pound defensive lineman into the ground, not once, but twice on the same play, and then threw across his body and scored a touchdown. So, I always tell people this. If Lamar Jackson doesn't win a Super Bowl in his time as the Ravens quarterback, I don't care. Because the name of the game is I want to be entertained.
Yeah.
And every week that I watch them play, I'm entertained. And Derrick Henry is a fat ass.
Yeah.
No.
Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl.
He did not.
So.
All right. Well, we appreciate you listening. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share as always. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a review on there. You don't have to type words. You can just tap on one of the stars, whether it be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. That'd be great. If you want to leave us a message there, that'd be great too. If you want to say how awful we are, how lovely we are, I mean, we're not opposed to that. You can also do that on Spotify, or if you listen to us on YouTube, which nobody does, you can leave us a message there. I'm also going to start reposting our episodes on Rumble when I can, even though Rumble makes it increasingly difficult to do so. We appreciate you listening. Go ahead over to tacmd.com. Please contact Adam Chubbuck if you have any real estate needs or even just want to have a chat about what you might want to do in the future. We appreciate you listening. We'll talk to you soon.